Welcome to the equivalence wheel, the wheel that shows us how fractions, decimals, and percents are equivalent, whether we turn them forwards or backwards. Today we will look at how fractions can be turned forwards into decimals and percents. The first fraction we will look at is 1/2. To take 1/2 and turn it forwards into a decimal, we need to simply divide it. So we're going to take 1 and divide it by 2. 2 goes into 1 0 times, so we need a decimal and bring down a 0. 2 goes into 10 5 times. 2 times 5 is 10, and so we get our first decimal. Our first decimal is 0.5. Taking our decimal and turning it into percent, we can either multiply it by 100, or we can simply write it as our decimal place being moved over 2 times. Move decimal 2 times to the right. In this case, we would take our 0.5 and move it over 2 times for our new decimal place and fill in the space with a 0. When we write it up here as a percent, we simply drop the decimal and add a percent sign. Our next fraction we'll look at is 3/4. Our first step to take it into a decimal is to divide. 3 divided by 4. 4 goes into 3 0 times, so we get a decimal and a 0 placeholder. 4 goes into 30 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. Remainder 2. Add another 0, pull that down. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. And our decimal is 0.75. To change this into a percent, we need to move the decimal place 2 times over. 1, 2. We drop the decimal and write it as 75%. Our last fraction we'll look at is 67 over 100. 67 divided by 100. 100 cannot fit inside of 67, so we get a 0, make a decimal, and bring down a 0. 100 can go into, 600 we know 6 times. And we have a remainder of 70. We need to add on another 0, and 100 goes into 700 7 times. 7 times 100 is 700. Our decimal is 0.67. Let's stop real quick right here. 67 was the same number we had up here, 67. That brings us to our little cheat. If we have some number written over 100, like we do, we can simply move the decimal, this time starting over here, and move it left 2 spaces. We could have done that right here, move it over 2 spaces, and simply got 0.67. Okay, now to change our decimal to a percent, we can take this decimal, move it over 2 spots, and drop the decimal, and we get 67 percent.